game coming up, and then we'll take your questions. Coach Mark.
I'll open with a big happy birthday to the one and only Claude Felton. Today is your birthday, right, Claude?
What better way to celebrate a birthday than have media day?
That's right. Well, happy birthday, Claude. We appreciate all you do. And we would like to also mention that thoughts and prayers are going out to those down in the Gulf Coast and New Orleans area. Obviously, we've got a couple of players from that area, and it's something we're thinking about those folks and all they go through. And as the hurricane makes its way northward, we're hoping for safety for all during this time. So opening comments and thoughts, obviously excited about this game. It seems like it's been a long time coming. We've had a good camp in terms of working it ourselves. We've moved on to Clemson since, I guess, about Wednesday last week, Wednesday or Thursday. We started working on these guys, and we got a chance to watch them all summer, and we watched them in the spring. They're really talented. Probably one of the best defenses I've ever seen returning in terms of number of starts and number of games played. The volume of experience is unmatched anywhere, anytime. And I've been in college football a long time in terms of just how much football those guys have played. And, obviously their quarterback got some experience last year when Trevor was down. He's got one of the biggest arms I've ever seen. Very talented, very hard to defend. It's like every play is really tough to defend when you play these guys. There's no time to rest when you're playing. And then special teams wise, they've always had good specialists. They continue to. That's a rich history in this game tradition. Both teams have always had great specialists. And I think special teams will play a big part of this outcome of this game.
All right, let's go to questions. Let's start with Paul Newberry, and then we'll go to Chip Towers.
Coach, how much more confidence does it give you in the offense and going into the season with a guy that is the starter at quarterback and not that uncertainty that you had going into last season? And kind of as a follow to that, do you ever have any second thoughts about not going to JT a little sooner last season?
I think the first question would be much more confidence in terms of this year compared to last year, not knowing for sure. And a lot of it had to do with no spring. Basically our spring was our fall camp last year, and don't get enough body of work to see the guys play and see the guys start out and go do things. In terms of wishing JT, big thing there was confidence in his knee and getting him rehab. We've talked about that before. It's something that was beyond a lot of our control in terms of him being stable enough and able to go. But I will say this, a lot of the confidence you have in your offense comes from what's earned, right? And you earn that by how you play and who you play. And these guys we're about to play are extremely talented on defense and extremely well coached and have everybody back. So when you talk about opening tests, these guys are really good defensively.
Yeah, Coach, you've talked about Clemson's defense. How confident are you? Looks like it'll be the biggest game that JT has played in. How confident are you in how he's managed, the preparations and the excitement over this game and all the attention that's come his way, NIL and all that different kind of stuff that he's had to manage in addition to getting ready for probably the best returning defense there's been in college football in a while?
Yeah, I'm extremely confident in his preparation and his focus. I mean, that's not of concern for me. The concern is who we have to block, the players around JT. Everybody puts this on the shoulders of the quarterback, but so much of the outcome of the quarterback are how the guys play around him and who those guys are and what's the experience level of those guys. And do they play well? Do they play with physical toughness? Do they strain? Do they do all those things? I'm very confident in JT's preparation up to this point and his preparation in terms of over the summer. And the distractions that the outside world has, they really aren't distractions for JT because he's got a single-minded focus all the time on kind of being his best and being the best leader he can.
All right, let's go to Mark Weiser and then to Mike Griffith.
Kirby, speaking of the guys around JT, are you pretty set with Cedric at center and Jamari Sawyer at left tackle? And how do you feel about this offensive line?
Yeah, both those guys have repped at center, and Jamari's kind of worked across the board in terms of the offensive line. Warren Erickson's practiced all the last 2 weeks. He's been practicing. He's practicing again this week, so we feel good about him. We feel like those guys are healthy and available, and excited to see them go play. So at this point, for our offensive line to get better, they got to go play, and they're certainly going to get to play against a very, very talented, twitchy, athletic group of defensive pass rushers and linebackers.
Kirby, you mentioned all the experience Clemson has coming back. You lost 5 defensive backs to the NFL, a couple more to transfers. Have you ever gone through a season where you've had to reload in the secondary? And how have you tried to double down and get that secondary group ready for Clemson's offense?
No, I mean, we've never had that many holes to fill. I know not the years I've been here. I can't think of a year in my experience ever coaching that I've had that many departures at the same unit. So it'll look very different. And a lot of those guys are as talented as guys we've had in the past, but very rarely have we had the lack of experience that we currently have. We just don't have a lot of guys with a lot of playing experience back there. And the only way to grow up is go play. And they've had some good competition. I mean, they got to go against our wideouts in the spring and our wideouts all fall camp, but it's time to go find out what they can do in the heat of the moment, what decisions they can make, what plays they can make. And they're plenty talented enough. We just got to go execute. We got to communicate well. That's what Clemson makes it hard on you, was they do a good job of moving people around and shifting and motioning. That's something we always see when we prepare, and we've worked really hard to get these kids ready for that.
All right, let's go to Seth Emerson and then to Dean Legge.
Kirby, is there any update on Eric Gilbert and where things stand with him?
Yeah, no update other than Eric is not currently with us still, and we're praying for him each and every day that he can come back healthy.
Kirby, can you compare? You talked a lot, and there's been a lot made of Clemson's front four. Can you compare them to that group you had? I'm trying to think if it was 11 or 12 at Alabama. How do they compare to that group?
And that's probably not fair for me, because I don't even know. Years don't work well for me like that. I don't know who 11 and 12 Alabama was, unfortunately. So it's a hard comparison. I can talk about their front four because a couple of them are from our state. We recruited each and every one of them. Really talented. Every kid across that front, we had on our campus at some time, and lost probably on all of them in terms of trying to get them. And they're talented, they're quick. What makes them so good is the defensive package and the way Coach Venables uses them. It's not just their talent level; it's they fit the scheme. And you've got plugging linebackers, extremely smart linebackers, very good tacklers, great blitzing linebackers. Are very aggressive in terms of what they do, and it fits. They fit their scheme. Those kids really fit the way they play.
Let's go to Roddy Nabulsi and then Jake Rowe.
Kirby, from the uninitiated, the non-coaches out there just seem to be a lot of similarities between this Clemson team and the Georgia team. Great defensive front, rebuilding the secondary, moving pieces around the offense. New-ish quarterbacks, very talented quarterbacks with some starts, but not as many as I'm sure either coach would like. Where are you guys similar, and where are you guys different for the folks who don't see it as clearly or as closely as you do?
Well, first of all, I don't think we're real similar. I don't think our two quarterbacks are exactly the same. Maybe in terms of experience, obviously Jake has more experience, but very different type quarterbacks. I think secondary. They have more starts in their secondary returning than any secondary I've probably ever played. I've been watching the same guys play in their secondary. It seems like forever. They've had them back there every single game. And, we have common opponents that we both played, and they've had those guys back there forever. Their front is different than our front. We do both have experience in our front seven. Theirs is different than ours. Ours is a lot bigger, beefier, built to stop the run, and theirs is twitchy, more athletic, built to rush the passer, and they've done that statistically really well, and they've affected every quarterback they play in terms of sacks and those numbers. We've been better in those categories, but not as good as what they've done. And then, offensively, there's some similarities there. I think, we got a lot of our backs back, and obviously their best back got drafted, but they have very capable backs, kids they beat us on recruiting, and they've got good wideouts. So there's similarities there, but outside of that, I don't think there's a lot of similarities between the two.
Kirby, you mentioned a minute ago about the offensive line, how it's not going to get better, or the next step for them is to actually play football. I wanted to take that to the receiver group. I mean, you've seen A.D. Mitchell since the spring, and you've had a lot of good things to say about him. You've watched Marcus come back from an injury. Ladd McConkey, is a guy that has also been battling there too. How excited are you to kind of see those guys get their opportunity to play some football, to play against another team and see what they're made of?
Oh, I'm really excited. That's the area that I think we can grow the most even throughout the year, because we have the least experience. Like we went from a really experienced receiver team to a not very experienced receiver team with George out, Jermaine missing some of camp, Kieris missing some of camp. So those are your guys that have the most experience, and the guys that don't are going to get an opportunity to go play and make plays. And some of them got to play a lot in the spring because of the injuries. I mean, AD, similar to Jermaine, Jermaine didn't get a spring practice. AD did. But AD still has a ton of growth. He's got so far to go to reach his potential. But we're going to find out a lot about those guys and the tight ends as well, and the backs. I mean, that's the big thing, is we got to play well at the skill position around JT to help him out with this rush group they got.
All right, let's go to Drew Hubbard, and then we'll go to Mark Schleybaugh. Okay, Mark.
Any update on Darnell Washington or Tyke Smith in terms of their availability?
Yeah, each one of them are doing great. They're moving around now, and hopeful both those guys will be healthy soon.
Okay, let's go to Dennis Dodd and then to Steve Hummer.
Okay. Hey, Kirby. When you looked at taking this game, what went through? I know Georgia is as aggressive as anyone scheduling non-conference. What went through your mind in terms of Clemson plus an SEC schedule?
Opportunity. I mean, the bottom line was our kids come to University of Georgia to play in big games, and we had an opportunity to play a really good opponent. And for me, it was what Georgia's about. I mean, our fans crave these kind of games. We as coaches crave these kind of games. You find out a lot more about yourself in these kind of games. And look, for you guys, it's everything. It's over if you don't win, and everything's, you won it all if you do win. For us, it's an opportunity to grow. It's going to make us better in our SEC schedule, regardless of the outcome of the game. We're going to be a better team having played these guys, and they can say the same for playing us. And these opportunities are what you come to major colleges to play in. So when you had an opportunity to drop a paid opponent and get this game, it was something we both jumped at.
Thanks. Thank you.
Steve Hummer, you there? All right, let's go Mark Bradley and then to Connor Riley.
Coach Smart, if you'll indulge me, I'd like to ask Claude Felton, the birthday man, a question here. Claude, since you were part of both of them, which Georgia Clemson game is the hype bigger for, 1982 or 2021?
I would rate them about equal.
Classic answer.
Good answer.
Let's
That's all
Hey,
I got.
Kirby.
Thank you.
Who's next, Connor?
Yeah. Hey, Kirby, with Darian Kendrick being his first game with y'all and it's against his former team, I know you've had guys playing emotional games like this before. Do you say anything to him to sort of, maybe get him to calm down or focus specifically on this game, given it figures to be such an emotional one for him?
Yeah, sure. We've spoken to him about it, and we continue to talk to him. I think the good news is he's played in a lot of big games, having been at Clemson. So that's not the hurdle. The hurdle is more the emotional side of playing your ex teammates and your old family, and that's always it can be a kind of a knee jerker and tough on you at times. And I know, I talk to him every day. We're watching cut ups of Clemson, so it's awkward at times to find yourself sitting there. I've been through that when, we played Georgia when I was at Alabama, or when you go back and forth and you play somebody the year after you've been there. It makes it a little different because you feel like you have a personal touch to it. But he's got to be able to separate all that, block it out, and go perform. And he practices hard. He loves football. It's important to him, and he's bought into the things we're doing. So I'm excited to see him go play.
Okay, let's go to Vance Levy and Brandon Sudge.
Kirby, congrats on making it to another season. Back in the spring, I asked you about Coach Muschamp, and what you liked of then was his ability to help the coaches coach. Has that been able to increase with his new role? And have you thought about where you might like him as far as on the sidelines or on the press box Saturday night?
Yeah, he's been a tremendous asset. I can't express enough the move to get him on board and how important it's been, especially considering our situation with him being the on the field coach. So he's been a jolt of energy to special teams. He's been an extra set of eyes on the defensive backfield in terms of we've been able to break things down. There's a lot of parts to the secondary. And when you've got new parts in all those parts, it helps have extra set of eyes. He's been tremendous at that. And, he'll operate on the sideline and make a lot of the special teams calls and signals and decisions and those kind of things. And he'll also help with our defensive backs from the sideline.
Hey, Kirby, I mean, obviously this is Jordan Davis's his return back to Charlotte. Can you do you remember when you guys kind of spotted him out of Charlotte? What was that conversation like with Coach Scott, I guess, when he came back to you with a report on Jordan after going out to Charlotte?
I don't remember specifically. I do remember watching some video we shot at a practice, and just knew right away this guy was a jumbo athlete. He went through bags. He actually was working out as an offensive lineman, which we recruited him the entire time as a defensive lineman. But it was his athleticism at tackle, offensive tackle, that stood out to me. He could bend, he could move, he had quickness, he was huge. It just left me wondering why more people weren't on him, because we thought he was one of the best players in the country, and we recruited him as such. And it was easy to see; it was evident on the tape. And Trey brought that back from going to watch him up there, and we just had a very consistent relationship talking to him, and Trey did a great job recruiting him. And his mother Shay is just a wonderful person, and there was a bond for him there, and he decided to join us.
All right, let's go to Jeff Schultz and then David Pascal.
Kirby, following up earlier question, I think by Dennis, you sort of touched on this, but I understand you have 11 games that follow this, and I totally get that messaging. But do you understand all the people who are going to draw conclusions from this, and that this is somewhat of a measuring stick? And do you view it as that yourself?
Yeah, I think every game's a measuring stick, right? I mean, you measure yourself every game, how you perform and how you play. It's no different in this game. I mean, it'll be a national measuring stick for everybody to say that, oh, Georgia's either here or Georgia's gone. I acknowledge that. I understand that. That's not going to change how we prepare for this game. That's not going to change how we prepare for the next game. It's life. It's what the world's made out of. You're judged based on your performance right now. I never forget when they threw away the Patriots and Tom Brady after one game and said the dynasty was over and they were terrible. And then the next couple of weeks they go on and they end up having a great season and they win the Super Bowl. I mean, I don't think you ever judge things based on one game, but that's obviously something that's always on a continuum, and it's always going to be done. That doesn't stress me out, because I know regardless of the outcome of this game, we're going to still have a good football team one way or the other. And the job that I'll have to do will be very different depending on the outcome of this game. But Sunday morning, we're going to be worried about our next opponent. David Pascal.
right, we got time for one more question. Anybody want to jump in?
Yeah, Kirby, I just wanted to ask you about, going into this game and having a guy like Darian Kendrick who's been behind enemy lines. He probably knows some tendencies those guys have. How much can you really lean into that? How much can you garner from that? And is it useful going into a game, where he knows the opponent this well?
I don't know that you can or can't. I mean, his information would probably be more personnel in terms of what are guys like. I've been against these guys. I know their wideouts. I know maybe something about their defensive backs or something specific. But scheme-wise, I think it's tough. There's so much more that goes into it. There's not like, oh, well, when they do this, this is what's coming. You can't say that because no offensive coordinator, no defensive coordinator gives the same look over and over. So, all that ends up doing is getting you chasing the wrong idea. So from a personnel standpoint, it probably helps because I think he knows those guys. But outside of that, there's not a lot to it.
Thanks, Coach Smart. Thanks, everyone, for zooming in.